Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for organic Bible study that's fresh and delicious. So glad to be broadcasting today. And today we are looking at verses 6 through 8. Verses 6 through 8, Psalm 26. Boy, this is a good psalm, isn't it? Well, did you pray the prayer yesterday? Did you pray that prayer and ask God to set your eyes so that you could walk in His Word? What a wonderful addition to prayer that is. My goodness. Today, we're going to look at verses 6, 7, and 8. Before I read those from my translation, let me just remind you about my-dailydose.com. That's my, with a dash after that, dailydose.com. Go there. That's our webpage. We can meet there on the internet. We've set that up with the podcasts. The sermon series are also there. Actually, this psalm, Psalm 26, was the subject of a recent sermon, so you can find that there on my-dailydose.com. You can also find my blog, some interesting stuff there about small church life and other things. And you'll also find contact with all the other social media platforms, links to go to those. And, as I've said before, Daily Dose Radio is like the king of social media platforms. So if you want to check it out, go to my-dailydose.com. Lots of good stuff. You can also get the translations, my translations there. So check those out as well. Looking today at 6, 7, and 8, Psalm 26. Let me read those for you. I will wash my hands in innocency. So I will go about your altar, O Lord, to proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving and to publish all of your wonderful works. O Lord, I love the dwelling of your house and the place of your glorious tabernacle. Notice that he begins there with, I will wash my hands in innocency, and so go about your altar, O Lord. What's he talking about there? Well, that's the action of the priest before the altar. He would always go to the laver first and wash before he went to the altar of sacrifice. So that laver that stood outside the door of the tent of meeting, he would go there, wash, and then walk from there to the altar of sacrifice and perform whatever duty was required of him at that time, but he always went washed. And so we cannot come before his presence unless we have been washed. So he says, here's the action of the priest before the altar. I will wash my hands in innocency. And you're thinking about that priest washing in the laver. And so go about your altar. So that one leads to the next. There's no presence at the altar without washing first. This is the place of thanksgiving. And we have that word very next thing in verse 7. To proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving. So we have the action of the priest, we have the place of thanksgiving, which is the altar, and then we have in verse 7, the instrument of thanksgiving, which is the voice. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you thanked God for the good in your life? When's the last time you thanked God for the evil in your life? Well, we don't usually think of that, do we? But we should. Job teaches us that lesson, doesn't he? Let's proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving, and so publish all of your wonderful works. Now, this word wonderful works, it's one word in Hebrew. It reflects or harkens back to what God did in the Exodus story when he brought the people out. That wonderful work, when he bared his mighty arm and he did a work with his mighty right hand. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the wonderful work in the Red Sea, in the plagues of Egypt, in the slaying of the firstborn, in the destroying of the armies and chariots of Egypt, in the taking of the land. All of that was the wonderful working of God in the life of his people. And the psalmist then just kind of melts down in praise in verse 8 and says, I love the dwelling of your house. That is where it's seated, where it sets. He loves the place where it is, and the place of your glorious tabernacle. Just being in the presence of the Lord is enough to evoke the praise and thanksgiving of the psalmist. Join me again tomorrow. We're going to look at verses 9 and 10 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.